Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, if you have military time or reservist time that you are activated, you can potentially use that time to increase what your pension will be after you retire from the civilian side, the FERS side of the federal government. That's what we're going to talk about today, how you can make that happen for you. If you are a federal employee, though, a civilian federal employee, you're in the right spot to learn about how to maximize your federal retirement. So consider joining the community and subscribing. Let's dive in. Long story short, you can do what they call buy back your time. If you have active duty military time, you can buy it back to have it count towards your civilian time. So as a simple example, let's say you've got 15 years of civilian time, okay, civilian time. If you had 12 years of military time, okay, so 12 military, that is, of course, a total of 27 years of time. So that you'd have, on paper, 27 years of time for the civilian side, which means you can potentially retire sooner as a civilian, because the more years you have, potentially you can retire sooner, and your pension is going to be a lot bigger because of the extra years, okay? However, this, generally speaking, the people that this makes sense to do, okay, the people that should be doing this are those that don't already have a military pension. So for example, let's say you did 20 years in the military and you're getting, let's say, $3,000 a month from your military retirement already. If this is you, you would have to give up that military retirement at your civilian retirement if you wanted these 20 years to count towards, let's say, your civilian time. Most of the time, the math doesn't come out. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Sometimes I've seen it sometimes make sense. Even giving this up, increasing your civilian time, you get it's worth it, right? Sometimes, but most of the time, if you have a military retirement, it does not make sense to buy that time back. As a general rule, obviously, run the numbers for you, but as a general rule, it doesn't make sense. When it does make sense is when you have military time that's not enough to get a military retirement, but it's not worth anything by itself, so might as well buy that time back to your civilian time to make it count, okay? Now, why is it called buying it back? Well, it is because you have to pay for it. It's not a free process. You've got to pay, I dropped my marker. There we go. You've got to pay the deposit to have that time count, right? And the deposit's going to depend on how much you made during your career in the military. It's going to depend on that. So, long story short, when you go through the process of buying back your time, then they will let you know, okay, they'll work with DFAS and everyone to let you know, hey, this is how much you have to pay to make it count. And for most people, okay, I would say 98% of the time, 98%, okay, if you do not have a military retirement, buying back your military time is very much worth it. Your pension, for most people, your pension is increased by a good number to pay back whatever the deposit was, whatever it costed you to do it. You earn your money back in just a few years, okay, in just a few years. And you get that increase for the rest of your life, and you potentially retire sooner, okay? So food for thought. Now, if you have, let's say, academy time, Air Force Academy, any of the Army academies, that time, potentially you can buy back, okay? If you are a reservist and you are activated, that time you can buy back. And the reservist is actually interesting where, as a reservist, you can double dip in some senses, where if you're activated as a reservist, that active duty time can count towards your reserve retirement and your civilian retirement. The same is not true for active duty military, just like normal active duty. You got to pick one or the other. You can't have a military retirement and buy it back towards your civilian retirement. You can have a civilian and a military. You just can't count your military time towards your civilian and get both at the same time. Okay, so hopefully that's making sense. But again, for reservists, you can have the time count for both civilian and your reserve retirement. So I hope that is helpful. I guarantee if this is you and you're thinking about it, talk to your coworkers. There's so many of your coworkers that have done this, and they'll let you know, hey, this was my experience, right? It was worth it or not worth it. Talk to people so you can figure out what makes sense for you. Run your numbers, figure out what it's going to cost you, and then go from there. Okay, I've got videos on how to calculate your pension, so go check those videos out if you want to know how much your pension is going to grow by having extra time. Those videos will help you with that, so you can decide, hey, is this worth it? I'm going to pay this amount, and my pension is going to increase by this amount. Is that worth it for me? That's the decision you have to make, okay? I hope that's helpful. I'll see you guys in the next video.